Hi, everybody. John Halda here, and I'm really excited to have David Cooper back with us. David, welcome.
Thanks. Great to be here.
Last time we chatted, we were talking about challenges that buyers face who are trying to get into this space. I was hoping to flip it today and talk about challenges that folks who want to sell some or all of their runs might face. Is that good with you?
That works. There's definitely some obstacles on both ends of that.
I think I'm not the brightest bulb on the marquee, but I'm guessing that the first priority for someone trying to sell is get the top dollar, right?
Correct. And that's something that has been, I guess, in question lately, what dollar is. But we've always kind of just taken a numbers approach to looking at things and seeing what a business or more importantly, what a run is doing. Some of these sales happen and it's a full business going out, and some guys are just wanting to sell off a portion of it, whether it be all the runs in one terminal or maybe just some of the runs in a terminal. Your software has been instrumental for us in kind of making some of those deals happen.
Well, thanks for the shout out, but let's try to break it down then, because selling encompasses a lot of things. You have what you're selling, right? And you have how you're selling it, and you have who you're selling it to, right? Can we talk about them in that order?
Sure.
So what you're selling, in your experience as either a buyer or helping other people try to sell things, how often do you find that what people are trying to sell could be dramatically improved if they take the time to clean it up, if you were?
Probably half and half. It seems to be when we are looking at deals or when we are helping other people look at deals, there's a lot when people are exiting the space currently. There's guys who are getting out because they're getting out, they're wanting to retire. There's guys who got in and tried to clean an operation and almost do a flip. But a lot of times it's hard to get the correct numbers to be able to compare, apples to apples on these deals. So we really have to start with just looking and diving into it and figuring out what you have. And when I say that is a dedicated run in one place or an unassigned run in one place, just because they're dedicated, just because they're unassigned, doesn't mean that one is more valuable than the other. To just throw a number out there is tough to do in today's market.
I know that a lot of people try to oversimplify it and they say, well, my revenue is this and it's trading at this multiple, so that's what I'll get, right?
Yeah, you see that quite a bit.
BS on that, or is that a good place to start?
It seems to be that is where the marketplace seems to start these days. Now, that's not where we've always started. We look at revenue. That is obviously it's important of what comes down to, but more it's a comparison of the revenue compared to, for dedicated runs, compared to the Schedule A, what they should be running. That's a good place to start. You can also, there's several factors into it. The opportunity for growth in the building, your comparison, the status of your runs versus the other runs as far as points and safety scores if you're buying an entire corporation and all that. There's several factors come into play.
And as a numbers guy myself with the software, I can tell you that I know contractors who are grossing 4 million and keeping $1 million, and I know contractors grossing 4 million and keeping 300 grand.
Right.
So if you're looking just at revenue, as a buyer beware, but as a seller, yes, it's nice to think that your revenue is going to dictate it, but you have to be honest with yourself and understand that somebody buying a business is going to care very much about how much of that they get to keep.
Right. And there's also other factors. You could be buying a business where the person running that business has every tractor paid for. They have no debt on it. You buy it, your numbers are going to look completely different. So it's just to look at what that company has done alone still isn't enough. You have to look at how you can operate what you are buying at that point.
Now, if you're an owner and you're looking to sell and you're still hands-on in the business, maybe you're involved in recruiting or scheduling, dispatching, or you're involved in safety, or you're involved in whatever it is. How big of an obstacle is that towards the sale? Because in theory, you're exiting, right?
Correct.
So you've got to be replaced.
Correct.
How much does that hurt a potential seller?
I think it has the ability to hurt or help, and it all depends on how that person wants to exit. And so that comes into a lot of the exit strategy. You see a lot where it'll say seller will stay on for a month. I think the relationship you build with your buyer as a seller can determine the value of your staying on for so long. There's several different routes to go with that. Do you need to be the guy that answers the phone, once a week when there's a question? Is that your level of commitment? That has some value to it, but probably not as much value as the guy that says, hey, I'll be in the office with you every day for 3 months and I'll teach you everything I know.
But I'm going to be a cynic here. I remember a little bit from my freshman economics class in college, a long, long time ago. If you're trying to sell something and there's a universe of potential buyers out there, if some of them want to be a hands-on operator, they're your potential buyer, right? And if some of them don't want to do that, they don't care if you're going to stay on for a month or not. They don't want to be doing your job. Doesn't that mean your pool of potential buyers is smaller than if you had management in place who could run it without you?
I would agree with that statement. I do think that from a pool of investors or pool of buyers, you are more appealing as a company or as a set of runs or whatever it is to sell those runs, to have management in place. The term mailbox money gets thrown out a lot with FedEx, and I think FedEx contractors would agree that most of the time it's anything but mailbox money. But there's people looking to get into the space for that reason. There's a lot of new companies, not a lot of people out there, right, that are offering services that can get you closer to that these days. And so again, back to my point, as a buyer or as a seller wanting to add value to my listing, having that conversation, growing with them, informing people of that stuff, knowing what's out there. That's where I think, as a seller, the way to get the most value for your run is to provide the most value for your run, and any of that information can be a value add. So if it's stuff you have, great. And if it's stuff you don't have, go talk to somebody and learn it.
Okay. So here's the next question then. As a seller, if you're getting ready to sell, if you were to look at, I think there's 3 big levers you can adjust in this business. It's fuel, trucks, and drivers, because those are the 3 biggest things on your expense line, right?
Correct.
And I suppose it's fair to say the runs on your revenue side is the other big lever you could try to adjust in terms of getting rid of some runs, acquiring some other runs, or going to work with your terminal managers to change the nature of the runs, right?
Correct.
So 4 levers. If you were looking at my business, if I had a business and I was selling it, how often do you think it's the case that someone has a business that they could sell in this market for $2 million, but if they were to pay attention to those 4 levers, the runs, the fuel, the trucks, the drivers for a bit, and change the mix somehow, that they might be able to sell it for a bigger amount, $2.5–3 million, if they were to fix those issues?
That's definitely the case for buyers like me. I think that's where the marketplace is dictated in the past, or the marketplace has had the stigma that a dedicated run is worth this. It's worth X amount because it produces this many miles. And where you're kind of going with, and it's the way that I've always looked at deals, is the top line doesn't matter. I'm buying a business. I'm trying to buy something that's going to generate revenue for me. I need to look at what the business is doing, and either how I can do that with the business through my practices or what the practices are doing. So if I'm looking at being just an investor or wanting to create that mailbox money, yeah, I'm willing to pay a premium for the guy that's running the higher multiple, that's got his ducks in a row, that's pulled those 4 levers and is as efficient as possible.
Now, if it's a value add opportunity because the seller hasn't done those things, I see a lot of things for sale where it's as if the seller expects that because there's a gap between what it's really worth and what it could be worth, the buyer ought to pay what it could be worth. And I would think as a buyer, you're like, well, if you think you can make it worth that, go ahead and do it and come back to me, and then maybe I'll pay you that. But if it's a value add and I've got to put the time and money and energy into it, I'm going to pay you down here, not pay you what it could be worth, because that's why I'm buying it, because I want to add that value and get that appreciation. How much of that value capture when there's a gap goes to the buyer versus the seller, in your opinion?
I think that comes down to who's the better salesman between the two, oftentimes. I think that's where there's a big lack or a big divide in our area or in our market currently. There are people who are saying that the runs are astronomical and there's no way they're worth that, and they may be saying that based off their own business. And like you said, a business doing $4 million in revenue, maybe it's all very long mile over the road stuff, and they're running great miles and they're producing great revenue, but their rate per mile is a whole lot lower than the guy doing 4 million with a whole lot of city spots and a whole lot of short work and a whole lot of dedicated stuff. And he's actually making 30 cents more a mile, so he's doing all that work with less cost.
Right. Okay, so again, trying to put myself into the mind frame of a seller. Let's talk a little bit about how you sell it, right?
Mm-hmm.
What are some of the thought process that go into someone who's got 30 trucks or 30 routes and they're thinking to sell 5, 10, 15 of them? What are the right reasons to sell? What are the wrong reasons to sell? When does it make sense to dump some of your runs, in your opinion?
So we've done this and we've looked at different reasonings for doing it. I can't say we've bought and sold runs over the years, but we have sold some parts of our business and have guided other contractors through doing the same thing. I live kind of by the means, if you're not growing, you're dying. And so I don't see a sale as a lack of growth. We have always taken, the proceeds of those sales and looked for a new opportunity with those. That may be in the space, that may be outside of the space. The reason for dividing one up versus staying, selling the whole could be a multiple of it. Do you want to get out of the space completely, or are you just looking to take a little funds and do something else? Are you looking to retire? Are you looking to downsize? Are you looking to set your kids up? What you're trying to do? The market play and what working with our one customer can sometimes dictate what you can do and can't do with your business. A lot of guys are, they have our customer come to us, they have FedEx come to us, say, hey, you're overscaling, you got to get rid of so much. Well, then it's time to pick and choose. What do I get rid of? Do I get rid of my greatest runs, the ones that are producing a whole lot, the ones that look really good on paper because I can get a high multiple, and now I can maybe make a venture into a new market because FedEx has capped me in this market? Or do I sell the scraps because I want to keep the cash flow and I want to go with that? And that's something that it really takes time sitting down to. That's what we try to help a lot of people with, but you just have to sit down and look at what your goals are for the future, what you're really trying to do, and what gets you there.
If someone's thinking of selling, how far ahead of time should they start making plans to do it? I mean, I'm guessing you're going to say it shouldn't be an impulse thing. Oh, I want to sell, let's do it next week, right?
Yesterday. If you're not getting into the space with your exit plan in mind, you're behind the 8 ball on it.
Okay, well, let's assume that there's people watching this who've been in this space for 20 years and never thought about an exit because that's what they're doing. And now they're thinking, maybe it's time for me to exit stage left, buy a place in warmer climates, not deal with all these headaches. Is it, in your mind, something that they should plan for 3 months from now, 6 months from now, 12 months from now? How much planning should go into a successful exit?
I think there's a whole lot of factors into that. It depends mostly, the biggest factor would be the size of the business. And And right, the larger the entity, potentially most of the time, the smaller the buyer pool. So if you are one of the larger contractors, if you do have a sizable business and you're looking to make an exit in a big way, the people looking for your company, looking at your company, they're looking at buying a trucking company. They want to see strong numbers. They want to see the books. They want clean books. They want everything like that. So if you're there, great. You may be ready to sell from day one. If not, clean up your financials, get those in order. That's the place to start. Now, the interesting thing comes into mind of what makes a business worth what, and is there value in dividing that business up and doing the carve-outs? Can you make more with splitting it up? I think it all comes down to, again, your run structure, your setup, your company makeup. It is hard to divide up one entity in the same building, because then essentially you're trying to sell two people to come in and be competitors against each other. If your current company makeup has you spread out against 5 buildings and 3 hub markets, things become a little bit smoother to divide those out. But then it comes into the portion of, do you have the right trucks associated with the right runs? Do you have your personnel lined up? Do you actually have a manager in place to make this a successful investment opportunity in each one of those markets? To give a time frame on that depends on the size of your business. Are you a 7-truck operation where you've had clean books from day one? You've only been in this space for 7-8 years, but all you've ever been is 7 or 8 trucks, and you've got a great operation and everything's clean. You're good. You got a 7 or 8 truck operation. You've been in this thing for 30 years. You used to be 25 trucks. You sold 10 of them. You now got 12 trucks on your schedule B, but you're only 7 positions and you're running a whole bunch of spare stuff over here. Probably need to clean some things up.
Are you, well, maybe I don't want to get into this. It's a big topic, but it's worth mentioning. People assume you have to use a broker to sell. But I'm of the opinion that it's a perfectly viable thing in the line haul space. It's a small enough community that you can do it yourself, that you can get word out there that you're selling. And, if you put in a little bit of effort, and some people might say, oh, I don't want to put in the effort, but the size of the commissions that brokers get is large enough that it's worth looking at that going, do I really want to pay out $100,000 to a broker because I can't be bothered to spend a little time trying to sell this?
You see a lot of deals happen through the brokers. They're very good at marketing. They're very good at getting what they've got out there. You hear of a lot of deals. You see a lot of stickers on the side of truck change, with never seeing those runs listed. You can definitely do it either way. I don't know if I'm an expert to speak on which way is the best or not the best, because I've really only experienced the non-broker market. We've dealt a little bit with brokers with some deals we've done, but most everything we've done has been FSBO. There's some add-ons that you can get. You can get some numbers that maybe a seller doesn't have. If you find yourself in that situation where your books aren't clean, there's some ways out there to have some aid in that. I also think that there's a portion of the buyers out there that have heard the horror stories and they don't want to mess with that, and they're only looking for the pocket listings. They're only looking for the deals out there that they hear through the grapevine. I think there's advantages and disadvantages to both. I think either way, the key to being successful with your sale and truly getting the number that you want is to have your affairs in order and to have your books representing the company that you are trying to sell. And at the end of the day, the more successful the numbers on paper, the higher the price you'll receive.
I would agree with all that. I think brokers, I have a brokerage license in real estate, so I'm not going to poo-poo brokers, but I think that brokers can add value, and in some cases they don't. I think it's important for people to realize that if you're listing a business with a broker, the agreement to list is negotiable. Commission is negotiable. Other terms are negotiable. Don't assume that when they put a piece of paper in front of you that it's a take it or leave it. Everything's negotiable. You mentioned taking an operation and carving it up. Let's shift a little bit into the who do you sell to, right? I kind of alluded to this before, where if you're selling to, if the buyer universe includes people who want to run the business versus people who don't want to be involved in the business, so you might get not as liquid of a market, as high a price for limiting who you're selling to. The notion of selling to, chunking it up to smaller pieces is very interesting to me, because I think that there's definitely a category of new buyer who's going to want a smaller operation. Your typical new person coming into the space isn't prepared to buy a 20 truck operation. It's just too big of a risk in their mind, right? They want to start small with one location. 4 to 7 trucks is an ideal number. You can hire a manager who's experienced to handle that much. You can go there, put your hands on the trucks, figure things out in one place. Do you find that that's part of the appeal of chunking it up, that you can get a better number potentially? If you had 4 terminals with 6 trucks in each, that selling 24 trucks, you get a lower number potentially than 4 outfits with 6 each?
Correct. The way I've always looked at it, it's sort of a supply and demand, but there's a greater demand on that business, and not because there's a greater supply of businesses that side, but because there's a greater supply of buyers for that size of business. Exactly what you said. When you seems to be, and through our experience, that when you get into the 7, 6, 8 truck operation, you have a whole lot of people comfortable. You have guys who are operators that are comfortable coming into that situation. Versus, like exactly what you said, the 20 truck operation can scare people. The other side is to consider our customer on this. The deal ultimately with the transfer of these runs has to be approved by FedEx. What's FedEx comfortable with? Are they comfortable with a new guy off the street coming in and taking over 35 runs? Probably not. Are they comfortable with a new guy off the street coming in and taking over 7 runs, saying, hey, he's got this contractor that's staying on for 3 months behind, I'm going to help him stand them up, get him running, everything's going to be kosher? I think it works. I think you open yourself up to a greater audience, and you put your listing out there in front of a more interested audience with greater numbers, and then it almost allows the bidding war, or at least it brings you more customers for your listing.
I'm going to switch gears and ask you a question. I think I know the answer, but you and I have talked one time about information asymmetry, which is a big, complicated way of saying sometimes other people know more than I do in a deal. In a similar vein, if we do something every day, we get good at it, right? If we're hiring and firing drivers and scheduling and dispatching and dealing with fleet maintenance, after a certain period of time, we're pretty experienced at it.
Right.
When we do something only once in a blue moon, we can't be very good at it, right? Selling your FedEx business, if you haven't done it in pieces a bunch of times, is going to be a very unfamiliar thing. What's the best way for someone who wants to sell to educate themselves about the myriad different things that go into successfully doing it? What are the resources that they can lean on, if any? I guess you, right?
I wish I had an answer for you, because I've been spending the last 5 years trying to figure that one out. We've learned a lot through trial and error. We've helped some guys do it with our company. As you know, the other brokers out there, they may provide those services. I haven't discussed that with I haven't seen anyone really in the space, with a big advertisement, a big push for how to do this. It's kind of opened it's been a model of ours. It's been a model of some other businesses in here, but I don't know that it's one that's been taken to the open market yet, that's been broadcasted out there or something to do. At the end of the day, is everyone exiting FedEx good for FedEx? No. And so I think that it's the advertisement, the pushing out there. There's some hesitancy of contractors to say I'm selling. That's why you see these pocket listings. You see it, and I think the pocket listings a lot of times are these carve outs, are these little things, and people are just trying to get rid of something here or there to make it to where then they can go to a broker and get rid of what's left. The training of that, the trial and error of that, it took us a long time to say that we are somewhat good at it. We really didn't know how to throw numbers out there with it, besides doing a lot of Excel sheets until we had your software. And that's why I said that earlier. Being able to break down your operations, your data by the run or by the region or by the hub or by the domicile of dispatch can really help with someone putting true numbers and true values on a small portion of their business.
So again, thanks for the plug, but I guess what I didn't do a good job of saying, and I hope folks who are watching this understand, in the same way in the previous video, we really encourage people who are looking to buy into this space or get into this space to take every avenue to educate themselves that they can. Like really dig in and get smart before you dive in, because it's the best protection you have to protect your investment. In the same way, I think anybody looking to exit in part or in whole should go out there and talk to as many people as they can, learn as much as they can about the right way to exit, all their options, make sure they dot their I's, cross their T's. And don't just think that if you talk to one person who says, I've done this, that makes them an expert. Like, talk to a bunch of people, because it's real money. It's what you've worked your butts off for. And it's a shame to leave a bunch of it on the table that you don't have to, just because you were unprepared for the process.
I definitely agree. For the purposes of this video, for what we were chatting with, to take yours a step further, I'm going to flip the script on you. I'll ask you a question. Okay. How do you suppose that a contractor does that? Say the contractor, right? It's easy for the guy that's been doing this for 5 years, 10 years, 20 years. We know people who have gotten out. How's the new guy? He's been in this for 6 months. He says, oh, I either hit a home run and FedEx gave me a whole bunch of growth opportunities, and now I've got an opportunity to go do something else. I'm one to, this operation's gotten out of size too quick. I've got 12 trucks and I'm split 5 here, 5 here. I want to get rid of these 5. Where's he go?
So start with the obvious, right? There are brokers out there. Call them up, get a consultation. They've done this a bunch of times, right? Don't sign anything just yet. Call me. I'll tell you what I know, what I've heard, and I will give you the names and numbers of people. I will introduce you to people who are either in the process of doing it or who have done it in the past, who are willing to talk to you. Go talk to people who have experience on doing this. I don't want to volunteer you, David, but I know that you're wicked smart. Can we include you in that list of people they can call?
Yes, we've provided the services for others. We've done this. We've helped people. It's the fun part of FedEx for me. It's we really enjoy the growing, and this is, to me, it's part of the growing, because a large portion of people who are selling their FedEx runs that we have spoken to, they're doing it to do something next, right? They're either expanding their FedEx business, they're into another space, they're doing something, but it's all part of their growth. It's all part of their story of how they're growing themselves and their company as a whole.
I'll give you another resource, Linehaul Central, run by Becky Doctor. She's been in this space for a while. They do the outsourced back office servicing, okay? If you're a seller, they're a great partner if you want to outsource some of the things you do in management-wise, because they can stay on when you exit, and that's a big sell. Absolutely. They have been working with customers to do just that, so they've been up close and personal with helping people sell. That's another resource. Even to just call Becky, and she's such a great person. She'll talk to you about what she knows. but it's also something you need to look at, because maybe you can have her clean up your books or help you get your safety program square, or help you do all kinds of different things to get ready for a sale. And that's somebody that a buyer ought to know also, right? Rick Dunn with Linehaul Solutions works with a lot of buyers. Because he's worked with a lot of buyers, advising them and helping them and coaching them, he has by default worked with a lot of sellers and seen this process. Rick Dunn's the kind of person you can pick up the phone and call. Sorry, Rick, if you don't want calls, but I'm probably going to give your number out. You can call Rick Dunn at Linehaul Solutions, and he is an amazing human being who would love to help you think through this and get the most value out of your investment. He's the type of person that wants to help everyone in this community, just like Becky is, just like you are. So there's people out there, and believe me, you call me, you're going to finish with 7 phone numbers and names to call, and you're probably the same way. Get out there and network. Plan to be at the Linehaul Summit this summer. Plan to be at any regional events that are going on. Plan to network locally. Get out there and talk and learn. Don't just stay in your office and hope that the answers come to you magically.
Couldn't have said it better. Knew you'd be able to put it more elegantly than me.
The view's better from my soapbox. I apologize.
No, but you described how we grew True Transport. You described how a lot of contractors have done what they've done, and that was pre-COVID era. It was getting out there. It was meeting people. It was going around to the hubs, and it used to be you could get into the Linehaul offices because we didn't have to worry about all the diseases and pandemics and such. But it used to be easier to network in this space. Very thankful for the Linehaul Summit and for other opportunities for those to still be able to network, because I agree with you. That is how you grow. That is how you learn. And that is how you get to the next level or get out of the spaces, by learning from the others who have done it before.
And I'll say this, smart buyers are always looking for the 3 Ds: death, debt, and divorce. That's what gets people into trouble, and they have to sell now. Okay. If you're a seller and one of the 3 Ds is biting you in the butt, best of luck, because you got a lot of time pressure and you got to hustle, and a buyer's probably going to get a great deal.
Right.
If you don't have one of those 3 things biting at you and you're just sick of it, or you're tired, or you're frustrated, okay, shame on you if you rush into a sale and just take what you can get, because the amount of money you're leaving on the table, it's almost criminal. Like I want to beat you up at that point, right? Because someone who's just like, I can't take another day of this. If I got to take one more call for a broken down truck or a driver who called off, I just want to get out of this. That's where you end up selling something for $2 million, and you could have gotten 3.5 if you take your time and educate yourself and be thoughtful about it. And if it's really $1.5 million problem and you can't take it anymore and you're willing to give it away, call me. I know some people who I'd love to introduce you to who would thank me for it. Right?
I agree. I'm right there in the boat with you. So that's a very good outlook on the system. There's definitely education out there. There's definitely ways of looking at things that haven't been explored or that a lot of people don't think of. But you can get very creative in this space by just looking at the grand picture of all and trying to make what you have marketable. And that's what this comes down to, is how to make the key to selling, the key to exiting, or the key to just getting rid of a portion of your business if it's a carve out, is to make it marketable.
And for a lot of operators, a lot of owners, that may sound as comfortable as next week you're going to get in front of a bunch of people in a tutu and dance a ballet, right? Marketing is not what we have to do. You're a FedEx ground contractor because you have one customer, you have no sales and marketing function. So don't be afraid of it. Get out there and learn it. It's not that hard. It's not rocket science. You can figure this out.
Right. Call me. We'll help you. We can do it.
David, I thank you for taking time out of your day. I'm looking forward to talking to you some more. You are an absolute wealth of knowledge, and I'm grateful that you're willing to share it with folks this way. We're going to put all your contact info on the screen here for anybody who's interested in getting in touch with you. Anything I should have asked you that I didn't, or that you'd want to share before we jump off?
Not that I can think of at the moment. I appreciate your time. Really enjoyed doing these with you. It's again, I've been able to do what we've done, and we've been able to do what we do by learning. And every time I talk with you, I learn quite a bit. So I do appreciate your time as well.
Well, and thank you to person watching this. We hope you're getting some value. And if you have ideas on what David and I could talk about that would be useful to you, please get in touch with either of us or both of us. We would love to try to share whatever we can to help you out.
Absolutely.
Be well.
Have a good day.